Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here for our last broker update of 2023. Today, I felt like it is a great opportunity for all of the brokers to get to know some of our staff at IAR and kind of learn a little bit about what they do and like when you should call them. So like Call Me When series with IAR staff. So I'm just going to go ahead and hand it right over and let them get started with Matt, I believe, is going to kick us off.
Yes. Hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Blake. I'm general counsel of the Iowa Association of Realtors. I've been your general counsel for a little while now. Generally, the question that if you want to call me, get to know me. I was trying to think of the song, call me, anyway, whatever. You see, this is the dad humor that's you're enjoying this morning. So the top three things that you want to call with me is if you have issues or questions related to forms, if you have questions or issues related to ethics or professional standards, and then of course there is always the legal hotline. The legal hotline, of course, you can ask a wide variety of questions, but again, I can't provide specific legal advice. So if you ask me a question based on, hey, I have these two contracts, one says this, one says this, which one's the controlling contract? I'm not going to answer that. That is a specific legal question that you need to turn to private counsel in order to get a question on. However, if you have a question of we have trust account, we have money that's been sitting there for 6 months. How should I react, and what's your recommendation on this? I can provide guidance with, here's the regulations, this is my recommendations on how to handle it. So there are some nuances that I can do, but again, when it comes to a specific contractual issue, especially one that could come about with certain reimbursements or certain compensation issues, I will not touch that. That is something that needs to be left up to private counsel. So again, you can contact me through my email, matt@iowarealtors.com, or you can communicate me through the legal hotline call, or you can use the legal hotline email. So, and again, that's kind of the know me. It's pretty straightforward. I think the others might be a little bit more nebulous sometimes about who to call, but when it's legal, you call me. So I do have two updates that they were trying to keep me to 5 minutes when it comes to talking on this. So I have one quick topic and one that's kind of a predominant topic, but I'm going to try to do my very abbreviated version on it. So first, IAR this month released a new listing agreement that came out this month. We had some information released on our website and some communication with some different write-ups on it. And we also have a handy dandy little video that myself and Noel, who is our legal intern for the summer and now fall, has put together. And they're kind of the biggest point of that is that we updated some language just to make it a little bit more in compliance with some of the other forms that we are producing. But the biggest thing that we've added to that is a duties section. So in previous listing agreements in the past, it was basically all duties shall be those of the homeowner when it comes to maintenance and control of the property. But due to the D'Souza case, which occurred last year, we tried to strengthen the broker protections within the listing agreement. So first, we increased the identification protections in that clause, but we also created a duty section and it's a long list, but it's a list of specific duties and obligations that are required of the homeowner. And it gets into some minutia. It's not an inclusive list. It says all of the following, but not limited to. So it's not an inclusive list, but what it is, things like shoveling the sidewalk, mowing the lawn, moving furniture, moving cars. Like it covers a wide variety of topics. And the point of that and why it gets into that level of minutia is it's supposed to be education for both the owner of the property to understand, like, these are the things I need to do, but also frankly an education to some agents, especially maybe some newbie agents that think, oh, I'm a full service type of person, I'm going to mow your lawn, I'm going to shovel your sidewalk. But that opens yourself up to liability. Even with our legislation that we passed last year, which helps strengthen protections, liability protections for agents, you would still not protect you from shoveling somebody else's sidewalk, them slipping and falling, and opening yourself up to liability. So that's the new broker agreement. You are welcome to take a look at it. You can, again, if you're a member, you can take that language, pull from it, We do not care. That is for you to use, and it's a tool for your business to move forward. The second thing I want to chat about briefly, which you all can see tremendous amount of coverage because you get a lot of coverage to you daily on it, is the litigation. The litigation, of course, is the Missouri case, the Burnett Spitzer, or I just say the Missouri case because I can never exactly remember which terminology I should use. The Missouri case in Kansas City is ongoing right now. It's been going on for a week and a half and will go into next week. They have gone through the plaintiff side, so the sellers that are challenging are saying that, or that are part of the class action, have gone first. Now we're on the defense side, so the defense is making their arguments in the case, and so they're bringing in a variety of different witnesses at this time, and you can see the nitty-gritty coverage that NER is producing, or Inman or some of these other articles have lots of coverages. And again, for those that are not aware, of course, this case is about alleging that there is a price fixing that is occurring through the MLS, through the price fixing of buyer's compensation, through the offers that are occurring from sellers, and that sellers don't have any ability and are overpaying, and it's inflating the buyer's compensation. That's kind of the gist in a nutshell of what this case is about. So I'm not going to get into any more of the mechanics of that. Again, I'll just kind of briefly talk about what are some outcomes of it, because all of you are just like, okay, how does this impact me? First, if we win outright, then everything's good, but then there is issues that they will likely appeal. And to be frank, in any of these outcomes, it might be years before we actually have a finalized outcome on these cases. But if it goes against us, there are issues that could potentially happen where the entire concept of sellers paying buyers commission may be challenged or alter, or maybe even go away, where sellers pay for sellers, buyers pay for buyers. And so that potentially is an outcome. Another outcome could be that the offers of compensation and cooperation that occur on the MLS may cease to exist as well, and that you may have to do individual contracts or things of that nature, which could lead to a heck of a lot of other problems and not benefit the consumer. And again, we as NAR and IAR and on down the line, we believe that all the policies we have in place are pro-consumer. They're not meant to price fix. They're not meant to do. It's meant to allow people to have ease of access and be a pro-consumer market where people can, especially first-time home buyers, and can get into the market and be able to purchase and have expert and professional advice when it comes to the purchase of their home. And so that is kind of everything in a nutshell. Greta, which I will stay on at least through, will have an update on some of the things that IAR at our level is looking at. But so does anybody have any questions? And I'm sure there's plenty, and hopefully maybe not. Maybe I covered everything very well. If there's any questions for me, I will stay on for Greta, but I actually have another training that's going on right now. So I will probably jump off after Greta's done and then move. And so if you have any questions for me, you can't wait till the end. You got to ask them now. Okay.
We do have a question in the Q&A, and they just want to know if the new form is in Form Simplicity.
Yes, and that's a very good question. Form Simplicity and Remind both have the form. It is just the listing agreement, the exclusive listing agreement. We've removed the old one, and the current one is in its place. So if you log on to Form Simplicity or Remind, it has the form on there. Okay, I must have been phenomenal.
Yeah,
my
covered it all.
So Greta, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. How can I follow such a phenomenal presentation? But I'm Greta Haas. I am the Government Affairs Director for the Iowa Association of Realtors. Been with the organization for about 2 years now. And I am your go-to for who you should call if you have any questions regarding our legislative priorities, anything RPAC related, or anything in the realm of our advocacy programs. So feel free to reach out via email, via my phone. All of that information is on the IR website, along with all of my colleagues on here. Their contact info is on there as well. So Matt gave a really nice introduction to what we're looking at for 2024 for legislation. Going back to 2023, obviously, we had a really successful legislative session. We were able to ban unfair service agreements. We were able to strengthen liability protections for our membership. And then we also took a first attempt at kind of tackling some of the issues that our members are seeing with homeowners associations. And so that's the first topic I'm going to touch on for 2024. So the legislation we passed last year creates that 10-day timeline for the HOAs to get documents to the owner occupant of the unit or the owner's agent. So that piece is now in place and went into effect July 1, as well as a piece surrounding the fees that can be charged. So the legislation that we passed does say that you can still charge a fee for access to documents. The HOA can still charge you that fee. However, the fee cannot exceed what it costs to produce or reproduce that documentation. And so this has also gone into effect as of July 1. I know there have been some hiccups, there have been some good things that we've seen happening. However, we've been in discussions with the majority party and leadership in both the Iowa House and Senate, and they are ready to kind of throw everything we've got at HOAs. And so the majority party this session is looking at a more extensive, thorough bill to tackle some of the bigger issues we're seeing within HOAs. And so we've sent them quite a bit of information on what other states have done. Specifically, Texas has passed some pretty robust legislation in regards to HOAs. And so trying to figure out how we can make that work here in Iowa and make sure that we have legislation that's palatable for not only our membership, but all the other groups involved. So we'll be working closely with party leadership to make sure that this HOA legislation for 2024 is good for our members, good for the public, and good for our communities. So that will be one of our first things that we'll be looking at in 2024. The next piece that we're looking at is real estate wholesaling. And so one of the things that realtors are really, really wonderful at doing is looking out for the consumer. And so we have seen some business practices happening, specifically kind of on the borders of the state, that can be seen as predatory, especially with real estate wholesaling, where we feel there's been a lack of transparency or it can be predatory to certain people that they are going after. And so we created a task force. We had several wonderful members participate and step up to lead and work on that task force to come up with a plan that we feel will help increase transparency surrounding real estate wholesaling. And so looking at what other states across the country have done, we are taking a three-pronged approach that kind of takes things from certain states and makes it kind of Iowa code compliant so that we can make sure that transparency is clear in these transactions. So the first is that a licensee will need to be involved in a real estate wholesaling transaction. That's the first piece. We know that our members have to adhere to a high code of ethics, that they have to be trained in professionalism. And so wanting to make sure that a licensee is at the center of that real estate wholesaling transaction. The second piece is going to be really important, is that piece of transparency. So we're going to require that there will be a disclosure of the wholesaling transaction, that this is a wholesaling transaction, to both the current title owner of the property and then also the final buyer. So again, a lot of the issues we're seeing is people aren't really understanding how a wholesaling transaction works, that title is not being taken, that the profit is kept by the wholesaler. So wanting to make sure that everyone in the transaction is well aware of what is taking place. And then the final piece is some language that we're using that Arizona actually implemented in their wholesaling legislation. But we wanted to make sure that there was an out for both kind of the current property owner and the end buyer if the two above kind of aforementioned rules, the licensee being involved in the disclosure, are not followed. And so going forward with this legislation, if the above two mentioned things are not followed, both the current title owner and the end buyer in the wholesaling transaction are able to cancel the contract without penalty. So wanting to make sure we're really covering our bases on real estate wholesaling and making sure that the consumer is protected. So those are the first two. And then kind of piggybacking off of what Matt was discussing earlier with the lawsuits, obviously we are navigating a pretty significant change in the real estate landscape right now, and wanting to make sure that we are preparing our state and our membership for what any outcome in these lawsuits may look like. And so we've had some pretty robust discussions, met with members from across the state, gotten a lot of input, and at NAR's recommendation, we will be working on legislation that will mandate buyer representation agreements. And so Matt and I and Jen Kingland, our lobbyist, have been working closely together for legislation for this for 2024. And so we didn't want to touch the code too much and make too many drastic changes all at once, because obviously we don't know what the outcome to the lawsuits will be. And as Matt mentioned, there's going to be ongoing litigation and appeals for several years, but wanted to make sure that we're prepared for the future. So what this legislation will do is pretty simple. We wanted to kind of mirror what goes on the listing agreement side. So these agreements, these buyer representation agreements, will need to be executed on the buying side now. And this is how we're going to write it in code prior to an offer for purchase being made by the agent on the buyer's behalf. So just like on the listing side, you can't market a property until you have the listing agreement. On the buyer side, you cannot make an offer on the buyer's behalf for a property until you have that buyer representation contract signed. So we're not touching the agency disclosure. There was a lot of passion surrounding the agency disclosure and the piece that that plays in explaining the role that realtors play and the value that they bring to the table. And so that will be remaining intact for now, really just trying to make sure that we are prepared for the future, that we're ready for whatever any of these outcomes may be with the lawsuits. So as you can see, very, very busy legislative session coming up for 2024. So we can't do it alone. We need all of your advocacy. So our Hill Day is going to be January 31st of 2024. It'll be in downtown Des Moines, luncheon at Curate again, and then we'll head up to the Hill to meet with legislators. So really hope to see you there. A lot of important things happening, a lot of changes to the industry, but a lot of changes for good that will only serve to increase our professionalism. So hope you can join us. Registration will be coming out probably early December. So keep an eye on your emails and the IR website for that information. And so that's the legislative piece. I'll take, is there any questions? I see a hand raised and then something in the chat for legislative.
So I think the chat was just a question for Matt. Matt, what can be done if another agent submits an offer on a really old form?
I mean, technically, there are no requirements of any statewide or mandatory form. So as long as the form complies with the base requirements of Iowa law, that form is legitimate. We may not support that form in the sense that we have a new purchase agreement. We have something from an IAR perspective. We won't provide guidance. We won't do anything of that nature. But there really is no there's bare minimum standards requirements in 543B56A when it comes to specific brokerage requirements for a contract, or for a listing agreement and a brokerage agreement and purchase agreements. But you really just you just gotta use whatever forms come at you, unless it's on its face not valid state law. So you just kind of roll with it.
Okay. Any questions on the legislative piece? Okay, I'll jump into RPAC then super quickly. I know I've gone over my 5 minutes as well. Matt and I are just taking up a whole call this morning. I apologize. But obviously our advocacy, a big piece of that is RPAC, the Realtors Political Action Committee. It really helps us get our foot in the door to have these conversations with legislators, to have these conversations with legislative leadership about the issues and the changes that we're seeing in our industry. And so every dollar counts. We have a very lofty goal this year of $518,000. As a state, we really punch well above our size and weight for our PAC fundraising. And I think it shows in our lobbying efforts that the PAC really does make a difference. So you've got a little over a month left to get your investments in for the year. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Greta, at iowarealtors.com, but really hoping to make that goal so we can continue to see the advocacy successes that we've been seeing recently. Awesome. It doesn't look like there is an attendee with their hand raised, but if you have any questions, if you can put them in the chat, that would be lovely.
Yeah, I can't see that on my side.
All right, and then with that, I will turn it over to Chris.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of the broker update this month. My name is Chris Brend, and if you don't know me, I'm sure you know my cohort, Dottie Fisher-Simmels. She has been with the association for not quite 20 years, so everyone knows Dottie. But we're glad to be here, and we just wanted to give you a quick update on what we're doing in the education department. First of all, we want you to know that we are strictly focused on the education and the current recent issues. That's our most important part. And then a couple of takeaways. We're working on providing the most current relevant information and providing new classes. And so we want to be sure that we can provide those for you. Dottie's working on my door and it's making a lot of noise, so sorry. The other part of it is that in 2024, we're bringing introducing new designation duos. So we're going to has several opportunities for you to take the accredited buyers representation designation course that will be offered 2 or 3 times just in the first quarter, trying to meet those needs of representing the buyers and doing our best to help you be educated on that. And then we're also doing with the duo, you'll get a discount for that second designation. So watch for that in 2024. Another takeaway that I want you to know is that if we don't have an education topic that we're covering that you think is important in it and we're missing that beat, which I hope that's not the case, but if it is, I want you to be sure to reach out to us because we have great instructors who love to write new curriculum all of the time. We're continually adding new instructors. So we're looking forward to 2024. We've got a bunch of brand new classes, fresh faces, and we want you to partner with us. So if you are working as your own school or as a separate business, let us know and we'd like to partner with you. So with that, if anyone has any questions on education, we're happy to help. We're in the full swing of renewal. I think there's almost 40 new agents taking the 60-hour pre-license course this week alone. So we're busy, getting ready to roll out the pre-broker next week. So any questions for me, just put them in the chat. Otherwise,
Thank you, Chris. Ashley.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Keeler. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications here with IAR. I've not been here quite a year yet, so I'm sure a lot of you haven't seen me or just are getting emails from me. Anyway, so I just want to give you a quick update on where communication stands within IAR. I'm sure you've noticed that there's been some changes on social media, our website, and maybe the frequency that you're receiving emails. That's something that our department is working to fine tune through the rest of this year. And obviously for next year, we want to really meet our members where they are and communicate to you the way that you'd like to be communicated. So that means more videos, more fun graphics, more spotlights on our members. So those are all our goals for 2024. Something that we recently did was we launched a events calendar on the IAR website. It currently has our big events, so Capital Conference, like Greta mentioned, summer meetings, which will take place in June in Iowa City, and then convention for the next 3 years, which will occur in the fall in Des Moines. We also have a number of NAR's events on that website with links that you can find more information to those. We are currently developing a form and a process with which we will be able to add local events as well, and additional, NAR events or IAR meetings and events that pop up. So you'll want to keep a tab on that calendar, but we will also be sending email reminders as well. So those are kind of the big things coming out of communications right now. If you have any questions, please call me. If you don't think you're receiving emails, you think you're missing out on something, please let me know. I will check our system, make sure your email's in there correctly and get you signed up for those correct emails. If you have questions about our social media, or if you have suggestions on stories you'd like to see on our website or member spotlights, or if your local board or community is doing something that you really think is amazing and shows the value of a realtor, we want to help you promote that. So please contact me, my email, my phone number. We will send out a recap of this meeting with everybody's contact information, so you won't have to go search for those.
Perfect. Sorry, I was trying to read. I had the question pulled up. There was a question for Chris quick before we move on. The question is, if we previously had an ABR, do we need to do it again?
No.
Okay. That answers that. Any questions for Ashley? There's a lot. They all have this little concise statement about what they have going on and all that, but I know firsthand that they have a lot more than that going on, and they're all working super hard. We're in great hands. We've got a really good group of staff who works well together. That is, I don't know, I guess I just see the energy in everyone, and it's been fun to kind of watch. And we have a new hire starting. Ashley, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So next week we have our events manager starting on Wednesday. Her name is Emily. So she will be our point person for all IAR events. So again, Capitol Conference, summer meetings, convention, and those little things in between too. So we're really excited for her to start, and we've got a good plan in place, I think, to introduce her to everyone. So
Very good. Any other questions for any staff or myself or anything? I know that it's maybe a little bit shorter meeting today, but we really want to make sure that we're covering what you as brokers want to hear and what's pertinent to your business currently. So I know going into next year, Shaner will lead these, but I think he would very much appreciate any of your suggestions or thoughts on what would be great topics to cover, because again, we don't want to be here just to have a Zoom to, tie up your morning for, once every quarter. We want to make sure that we're giving you information that is truly valuable to you as brokers. So there's one more question. Is the best way to tag DMAR to send those social posts? What is the best way to handle to use, Ashley?
yes. So Penny, if you're talking about DMAR specific events or things that are happening, you can email me personally if you want with that information. But if you also already have it on social media, tagging DMAR, I can send you their handle. I don't know it off the top of my head. I know it's the Des Moines Area Association of Realtors, but I will reach out to you, Penny, and give you all of those handles and put them in our recap email. But that would be the best way to do it. And then we can reshare on social media and go further with those topics.
And if you don't mind, Madam President, I will just reiterate what Krista said. We don't want to just make up topics for you guys. I mean, we'd love to hear from brokers around the state what you're interested in hearing about, so we can address that. So by all means, reach out and let us know.
Oh, Krista, you're on mute.
But there's another question in the chat about not finding the new form. The listing contract on Form Simplicity shows 2011. We can have Matt follow up with you, Laura, and make sure that it's there and kind of point you in the right direction, if that's okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll get you out of here. Anything else from staff that you guys want to fill us in on? Shaner, anything else you want to share before I hand it all over to you?
I'll just say that I went through a fabulous spokesperson training event yesterday at IAR. And the big takeaway for me is I'm going to be a lot more concise and brief going forward. I promise everybody that. It's recorded now.
Okay. The training was good last year too. I'm glad you learned that from it. Now I'll just remind you of it every few weeks. Okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we will let you all go. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Thank you, staff, for sharing what you guys have going on, and thanks for everything y'all do. See everybody later.